Hello, everyone. A warm welcome. My name is Michelle de Klerk. I'm the founder of the Women's Chapter, and I'm delighted today to be joined by three of our founding members, Joy, Corina, and Tumi. This series is called W.Talks, and it's an opportunity for us here on LinkedIn to have a conversation with our members to learn a little bit more about their why, what they do, and then discuss anything really that kind of comes up. And they always land up being really organic conversations. So for those that are joining us, please feel free to pop any questions or comments in the chat. We'll try and introduce that as part of our conversation. But otherwise, this recording will be saved on LinkedIn as well as on the Women's Chapter YouTube channel, so that if you come in halfway and you've missed some of the conversation, you'll be able to go back and watch from the beginning. So without further ado, I would love to give each of our wonderful speakers an opportunity to introduce themselves in their own words. Joy, can I start with you? Because I'm going to kind of work clockwise around my screen. Over to you.
Amazing. I'll kick things off. So great to be here. Right. So I am a leadership coach, as my little title says. That means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. So what that means to me is I work one-on-one with high-performing female leaders to really hone their authentic leadership style. And that I find helps them to write the next bold chapter of life and work. I came to this work because I spent the first 20 years of my career climbing the ranks of big tech and consulting, all the while battling all of the people pleasing and the perfectionism, and had an amazing transformative experience with an executive coach along the way. And long story short, here I am.
Brilliant. Thank you, Joy. And I love that you talk about our next chapter, because I think so many of us often need to be given permission. Obviously, we shouldn't need to be, but, that to consider our next chapter, and that this isn't it. We can have multiple chapters open at the same time if we want them. So I love that, the kind of open-endedness of that there are many chapters that exist for all of us. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Corina, can I hand over to you to tell us a bit more about yourself and what you do?
Sure. So I'm Corina. My company is called StarCat, and basically it stands for 5-star consulting and training for the Middle East. So I'm a Middle East specialist. I've worked with a lot of hospitality companies over the years, and I have looked after a lot of high-profile people from the Gulf. And my mission now with StarCat is very much to break down stereotypes and bring the Western culture much closer to the Middle Eastern culture. So for companies and individuals to understand a lot better when they work with clients from the Gulf region, what they need to do, what maybe they should be doing different than what they are doing in business with everybody else that they're working, and just to sort of align ourselves and be a bit more open-minded and not think in terms of stereotypes.
Well, thank you for that, because I think definitely, there is such an awareness of us breaking down stereotypes, but also post-COVID and the rough, and I think for some people it's a distant memory now, but for many people they're still very much feeling the after effects of what happened over that 2-year period. But what you specialize so much in is helping people identify new opportunities for their business, particularly in the Middle East, and demystifying what it means to do business there, and that those opportunities actually exist for businesses across all sectors, which is really exciting. It's not just a hospitality or a business, a banking or a finance, that actually so many of even the individuals within our community have benefited from knowing about the opportunities that exist for them in the Middle East. So it's really valuable. Thank you, Corina. Tumi, can I hand over to you, please?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me this morning. My name's Tumi, and I brand myself as the beauty chemist. I've been a cosmetic scientist for the last 13 years now. And I think in my transition, I used to live in the southwest in Devon, the sunny side of England. In my transition, coming back home to London, I knew that I wanted to stay close to my passion, which is cosmetic science, formulating and creating. I recently started a consultancy back in 2021 where I help brands with any sort of formulation work that they need. So that's personal care brands. And I guess the most popular aspect of personal care is usually cosmetics, skincare, and hair care. So my company exists to give brands the scientific advice that they need to be able to create the products that they want and launch into the market well.
Amazing. And Tumi, I was so excited when you joined the women's chapter for a multitude of reasons.
Okay.
Because I love that we get to shine the light on a female scientist role model. You know, I know that we need a lot more people like you in the industry.
I agree.
And obviously the beauty industry has a lot of women in it, but I don't know how many female scientists there are behind innovating and driving the kind of growth of these brands. So it's really exciting to be able to have you as part of our community, but hopefully there will be a lot more people that be inspired by what you do and to tell their daughters about it so that
Definitely.
they keep them excited about, you know, we have all these influencers that get super excited about skincare and beauty care, but actually to know that there are women like you behind the scenes driving the evolution of those brands is really exciting. So delighted.
Thank you for having me.
So I'd love to start because Joy and Corina, I know that both of you, because I did ask everyone to kind of send over some questions ahead of this so that we could shape our conversation. But both of you had spoken a little bit about, you know, this kind of what it means to you or what you've learned as a female founder along your journey, because obviously we all run our own businesses and we are learning and growing and sometimes hustling every day as we go along. So Joy, can I start with you? I mean, what's been your biggest learning along your journey of transitioning from the corporate world to becoming the founder of your own business?
Yeah, sure. The biggest surprise that I had, which honestly, I shouldn't have been surprised. I laugh at myself for this, but somewhere along the way, probably 6 to 8 months in, I realized how deeply lonely I was. How isolated I felt after spending the majority of my career going and working with, you know, hundreds of smart, energetic people surrounding me. And then, you know, being at home, being a founder, working from home, quite isolated. I should have anticipated this, and people talk about it, but I guess I'm here to say, like, it really is a thing. You wake up one day and you realize, I don't have any workmates. I don't have anyone to bounce something off of. I don't have anyone to say, I was thinking of saying this. Does that feel right? You know, any of that. And, or this is a strategic direction that I was thinking about pursuing. Help me understand what, you know, the good stuff and the things that could go wrong. And with that realization came, for me, a sort of a grand experiment that I decided to try to, you know, really reach out and find my tribe or tribes. And the women's chapter has definitely been one of those places where I found, at first I went in thinking I was going to network and make business connections and maybe even bring in business, which yes, that happens. But I really, truly think that when I shifted my mindset from networking, which can feel like an icky word, to making meaningful connections, something shifted. And I found people that I could really share the ups and downs with, find that support, and also find ideas and solutions to problems and all of those things. And yes, some business as well. So I think that has been the biggest surprise going into founding my own company, was the loneliness, and that you have to really be conscious about finding those tribes, building that network, because it used to happen automatically just by walking in through the doors of your office.
Yeah, absolutely. I see you guys are both nodding, Tumi and Corina. Have you felt the same? Was that element of loneliness a surprise for you as well, Tumi?
I mean, oh, sorry.
Oh no, you go first, Corina.
I definitely, I think that's one thing to find, but I think not also the loneliness. I think also find people that are very aligned with what you do, that understand what you're going through, because maybe even if you had workmates before, they cannot relate. If you're like in a 9 to 5 job, it's a very different thing. And if you work for a big company, you have all these departments like IT and marketing and social media. And when you're like an entrepreneur, that's all just you. Like there's no big department behind you that can do all of this stuff for you. So you have to come up with all like your brand colors, your social media, like what you want to stand for, how you want to portray yourself, or even to things like, if you wanted, if you were approached for interviews, you are the one who has to decide whether this is the right fit and whether this makes sense for your business and where is it going to lead. And, so I think it's so interesting because there's so many different hats that we all have to wear. And then I think to come together in something like the women's chapter is actually really nice, because you find so many different women from different backgrounds, whether it be like, marketing or things that you can just bounce ideas off as well. And that you're essentially not alone and you can ask for help, and it's just in a different format, I would say. But it takes time getting used to this.
Yeah, absolutely.
I definitely agree.
What's been your learning or struggle as becoming a founder?
Yeah, I totally resonate with Joy and Corina. This sense of loneliness, it wasn't what I was expecting, just because I'm very well connected. But the day-to-day, everyday, mundane bits of the business, I don't actually have any sounding board. And what Corina was saying about being many hats in your own business, and having to learn very quickly that I needed to delegate, because my strengths aren't in finance, my strengths aren't in admin, my strengths are in being a creative founder. I very quickly realized that I'm not a CEO, I'm a creative founder. I don't enjoy the day-to-day mundane parts of business. I enjoy that creative aspects of business. I think one of the strengths of being an entrepreneur is you very quickly find yourself. But the challenges for me personally is I felt like I've always had to show up confidently, because sometimes I didn't feel like people would take me seriously. And then they see the accolades and they see all the recognition that I get, and then they'd be like, oh, now I need to take her seriously. And it's like, but you could have taken me seriously in the beginning when I first showed up. And sometimes that can put a little toll on your self-esteem. And I think the challenge for me is having to show up every day confidently and bringing my best self to the table, because sometimes I don't always feel like doing that. So
that resonates with me. Yeah, totally.
Resilience is the word. Yeah.
Well, it's really interesting that you mentioned resilience, actually, because Corina, I know that you were keen to touch on that as well. I mean, how do we develop resilience? What do each of you have something in your toolkit that you go to that helps you build it and compound it? Corina, can I start with you?
Well, I think again, it's different for everybody, but for me, it's very much and I've said this before. And it may sound strange to some people, I go swimming all year round, like whether it's summer or winter or something, and it just gives me that time. And I purposely go with nobody, because this is sort of my time where I just need to think, and I just need to, kind of build up my resilience and build up that, yes, I can do this and this will work. And it's almost like basically like a bit of a pep talk to myself that I do when I go there. Hence why I'm not very keen on going with lots of people. But I think there's various ways. I think you can surround yourself with other people, but I think you need to make a conscious effort, and I think you need to be aware that this is something you have to work on. And just because one day, or let's say 1 week, is good, doesn't mean the next week is going to be exactly the same, because the next week you may feel completely different. So I feel it's something that you have to work on, and everybody has to find that one thing, or maybe 2 or 3 things that they can, pull out when you really don't feel like it, basically.
Yeah.
And Joy, do you have a resilience tip? or how have you navigated that?
Yeah, I mean, I think founder fatigue and the roller coaster is real. And anything that, when you can find something that works for you, to know what it is and have a go-to, so important. I have learned that there's a framework that I use called the 3 A's. So the first is acceptance. So really identifying what's the root emotion, whatever's going on, and that's causing me to feel that low point. What is the root emotion that I'm feeling? If it's fear, if it's sadness, disappointment in myself, whatever it is, and just acknowledge it, know that it's there. The second being allowing it. The second A is allow. So this is look at it, observe it, but don't judge it. Don't try to fix it. Just actually allow it to be there. And it's funny because it sounds really counterintuitive, but research shows that when we do this with our emotions, particularly with fear, it tends to lose its intensity. It tends to lose the strength that it has when we allow it to exist without trying to judge it. And then we can go onto this place of action, recognizing that emotion is really just energy plus information. So what is this emotion telling me that I need to do? Do I need to set a boundary? Is there a need that hasn't been met that needs to be met? Is there a no that needs to be said? And it's a handy little packaged up framework that when I'm at a low point, I can really reach for and do often. And I find it really, really helps me.
I love that you were talking about that, the allow and giving yourself time to sit with something, because one of the advantages, I think, of being the founder of your own business or running your own business is that you get to decide how long you take to respond to something, how you respond to something, because I think so many of us, we get caught up in this always on culture and knee-jerk reactions to things, and responding to questions or requests or things that kind of come across our desk or on our phones or whatever during the day without really sitting with them. And interestingly, I had a situation like this last week, just one of those days where you land up having a queue of difficult conversations you have to have around things. And I got myself kind of all worked up and I was like, oh, and I've got to address. And then I was like, actually, I don't need to address this right now. I can take my time and space it out and schedule a call next week to talk about it. And actually, what made me feel really anxious earlier this week, today, I feel really good about it. And I've taken the time to think about it. And I haven't sent that email response 10 seconds after I got it, where after I'd read it, thought, oh, actually, I don't really feel that way. So I think that is one of the advantages, but it is something you have to teach yourself to do. And, you get to decide, you set the pace, you determine how you respond.
Exactly. There's an unlearning that occurs there. Yeah,
absolutely. But like, anything resilience related, you do need to work on it. You need to build it and learn it, that you build that as a skill.
And I think there's a really good saying, isn't it? It's like, the only thing you can influence is how you react to a situation. It's not about, the situation. It's you can only control what your reaction is going to be. And I think that's very powerful.
Yeah. Tumi, do you have any go-tos in terms of building resilience?
Yeah, I think for me, it's how I start my day. Each morning I do go to the gym. And for me, that is grounding. And before I get to my office, and I don't get to the office before 10 o'clock, before I get to the office, I do decompress in my car. I don't know, people usually decompress at the end of the day, but I decompress before I start my day. And I have a set of affirmations. I also have a daily devotional, which is like a word of encouragement that I read. And that really does set my sights for the new day ahead, gives me new perspective, helps me to I guess, align my thoughts positively before I start the day. I find days where I don't have those moments of affirmation or devotion, the whole day is just derailed. So I definitely have something that keeps me grounded each morning for about an hour, just affirming what I'm good at, affirming who I am, and then having the devotional, which for me is an encouragement for each day.
I love that. I mean, that's your self-care ritual, right? That's
Right?
and I think it's brilliant that people are framing these tools that they use and talking more about them as self-care rituals and the things that they need to do for themselves in order to be more
The
productive,
best
more
self.
efficient. Yeah, exactly. And as you were talking about, kind of showing up, but showing up in the best way
Absolutely.
you can, which
I think the
is the
world
work.
loves to dictate to us how we should feel, what we should do.
Mm,
The media, there's so much going on and so much that we're absorbing. And I think it's really important that we dictate our own narratives, and to bring to the table what we want to bring to the table without influence externally from others. And I think keeping myself grounded each morning helps me to uh, show up as myself authentically without the external influence. And I think, because we were talking about resilience, the resilience comes from knowing who I am and what I'm about and what my mission for today is, and showing up for that each day.
mm. And a big part of that is confidence. And I know, Joy, the people that you work with, the women that you work with, that's often, even if they don't realize it at the time, one of the things that's holding them back from showing up or feeling like that. I mean, they often are being their best selves, but they might not feel like they are. How do you deal with that feeling of a lack of confidence? And what advice do you give your clients?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much packed in here. And actually, something that Tumi said around sort of this external was really speaking to me too. This idea of knowing who you are without having to rely on the external validation. And I find, this is such a huge topic for so many women that I work with. And that is, I first want to recognize the fact that as women, we have, to one degree or another, all been taught to have a worldview that I need permission. I need permission to show up as myself. I need permission to go after that next opportunity, whatever it might be. And so with that background, acknowledging, everything, I don't need to explain why that is, I don't think. But with that, it makes perfect sense that our go-to would be external validation and seeking that out and having people tell us what we should and shouldn't be, should and shouldn't do, need to do, don't need to do. And so it really is an unlearning process that gets us from there to relying on sort of an inner sense of trust and truth about who we really are and making decisions that are aligned to that. Two things that come up when we do rely on that external point of view is it can knock our confidence, because the first thing is there's a high if you get a pat on the back, or you're kind of you're being acknowledged and as doing the right thing, but it's very, very fleeting kind of high. And so you end up on the treadmill going for more and more and more. And that is super, super draining and actually drains your confidence in the long run. And then secondly, something that I didn't realize, and I wish someone had told me much sooner, is that the more senior you get, and in this case, as a founder, you are the senior, you're the most senior, the less pats on the back they hand out, the less, people, sort of directional external validation that you get. And so you learn to feed off of it. And then as soon, then it starts to come away. So I guess just to build off of what Tumi was saying, I'm a huge, huge advocate of understanding that it's something that can be unlearned. It requires tapping into your inner sense of trust. And that is the deepest source of confidence that you can have. As you do that, I would say, the thing that I heard once really recently, just to go back to your question, Michelle, was that when it comes to confidence, that when what you want is bigger than what you fear, then courage emerges. So
I love that.
If you keep that in mind, my advice to myself and to clients is to get super clear on both of those things. You look at what it is that you're fearing that's knocking your confidence, and get real for, like, going back to that, allowing it, understanding what it is. And then also getting clear on the vision and your why, what your values, the vision for what you're doing. And then when you can know what those two are, and the latter can become bigger than the fear, then the confidence usually comes forward.
That's great advice. And I mean, it's interesting because the confidence and resilience, I mean, obviously are so closely linked, but also just when you were talking about that sense of validation that we need, which I think it's a human need, right? I mean, everybody does need somebody to tell them that they're doing a good job. But where does that contribute to this loneliness that as business owners we feel? Because as you were saying, the higher you get, the less pats on the back you get. So where do we go to for healthy validation or a healthy level that doesn't involve us needing permission from somebody? I mean, Tumi, who do you go to now along this business journey that you've had to tell you that you're doing a good job, and that where it builds your confidence as opposed to undermines it?
Okay, I think I might be doing this backwards, but I'm sure anyway. In my career, I've had such a, I guess, colorful CV, and most of my young self depended on the LinkedIn likes, depended on the external validation that came with every promotion, that came with every sort of next level. Until I got really burnt out, and I just kind of felt like I cannot live from a place where I'm performing really well and getting all the recognition, but it's costing my health, it's costing my peace, it's costing my mental health. And so now for me, I've really learned to go inwards. And when it comes to being a founder or an entrepreneur, I think a lot of my validation now comes from my family, my partner, my friends. I share with them my wins and they celebrate with me, and I'm satisfied with that. So I don't particularly have an external platform where I'm seeking validation. I had in the past enjoyed all of my colleagues and everyone on LinkedIn liking all of the achievements and all the rest of it. And that is nice. It really is nice to be seen. But I think that when I'm looking for validation now, a lot of it is coming from my inner circle, my community, just because I'm not in that space now where I'm chasing the attention.
That's brilliant. Thank you. Corina, do you have anything? Oh, she's having a cough. Anything you wanted to add there? Or I don't know, maybe a tip that you've learned along the way in terms of confidence?
I mean, I think for me, sometimes it's the small things. It's where, where you don't expect stuff. So for example, I can't even remember what exactly it was about, but I had a LinkedIn post about something, and some guy wrote some really, like, he took it very personal, and it obviously triggered him, and he wrote a really bad comment on it. And then somebody messaged me, another guy, saying, "Oh, please don't listen to this guy. Like, just keep doing what you're doing." Like, he probably just woke up, on the wrong side of the bed. And it's almost like these kind of like little things make a massive difference. Or when people say to me, what you posted on LinkedIn was so interesting. And these are the people, by the way, who never like anything. They never comment on anything. Like, you don't even know they exist or they've seen the post. And they will then say to me, but in person, they will say, "Oh, this was so interesting. I never knew this. I really tried this out and it really worked." And I think those things to me, are enough validation, and it shows me that what we are doing is the right thing, and we helping people understand other people more and open their mind, and I think it's so important. And also, like, there's a lot of women that say, we would have never known about this dress code or this or that, and we would have never considered even going to the golf because we were too afraid, but because you've been speaking out and you're not from the region, that gave us so much more confidence, and we felt so much better. And that, to me, is all the validation I need. It's not about accolades or how many likes you get or whatever, because it's really not about that. It's more about these sort of like little examples where people can really feel you've helped somebody.
Yeah. Well, and that's brilliant feedback, isn't it? I mean, those testimonials and the feedback that you get from people, specifically around your expertise. I mean, that isn't validation. That's just really positive feedback and telling you, that they're appreciating what you're putting out there and your contribution, which is brilliant. I mean, it's interesting that you mentioned about somebody posting on something that you've written and then you getting private messages about that, because it's one of the things that I never really understand, why people don't put their necks up and actually comment on the thing saying, I love what you're doing, keep doing it. Because I recently, a very dear friend, and she's a member of our community as well, had quite a kind of contentious exit from a massive company, and she posted kind of an apology almost to all of the employees and people, and she got slated. And everyone came out of the woodwork, but she was talking about all of the incredible messages of encouragement that she'd received privately from people, and I was like, but why didn't they just post it there? If you're prepared to, so I don't know, maybe that's also something we need to get better at, is sticking up for people publicly, being prepared to stand up for one another, which can be really uncomfortable, right? But I think that level of support, if you really believe somebody's doing a good job, say so and let everybody else know that that's how you feel. Anyway, we digress.
I'm so curious as to why we would struggle to encourage one another publicly,
Yeah. Well, and I think maybe it goes back to what you were saying, Joy, as well, about this idea that, particularly as women, that we're supposed to be good girls and we're supposed to not get embroiled in difficult conversations or anything like that. And so we will send a message privately to say, oh, I really love you, don't lose heart. But actually we need to get better at doing that, publicly and standing up for one another, because as much as it feels uncomfortable at the time, you get better at it. I think it's one of those learned skills.
I suppose the social media space can get a bit ugly sometimes, and if you don't want to participate in that, that's
but it also links back to what you were saying to me, and I think it's a really good piece of advice for any business owner, is not getting too hung up on the external validation that we think we're supposed to be getting. I was talking to somebody that runs a personal training business, actually, and she was really upset about somebody who was considered to be a competitor of her was getting so much more engagement, so many more likes, so many more of this, and she was kind of like, what am I doing wrong? And as a result, she's actually taken a step back from social media for a while, just to kind of figure out if that's because she was measuring her success on that, not so much on what her bottom line was, and rather kind of focusing and thinking, hang on a second, there are lots of things that I'm really good at, and how many followers I have on Instagram is not an indication of that. Some people don't have Instagram accounts.
And can I just say that sometimes I think it's also very misleading, because sometimes you see people that have on social media, they have a big following, and then maybe you get to meet them in real life and you actually see that what is portrayed on social media is not actually true. And a lot of people also, they don't necessarily always put out the truth. Like they will say on social media, oh, we're fully booked, but they are far from it. They don't even just break even, but you just don't see that. And it's this whole kind of FOMO inducing, oh my God, what are they doing better than I am doing? But at the end of the day, I think you could have 100 or 50 followers. If they are going to be your clients and they're going to buy from you, that's much more valuable than somebody with 1 million followers where maybe they can't even shift 10 t-shirts, you know. So I think it all comes down to this. And I think very often you can get caught up in the hamster wheel that you think, oh my God, I need to have more likes and more this and more that. And that's not actually what counts. It really isn't.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I definitely agree that social media can skew things for us. And I found, just generally speaking, in my business and with other people that I've seen be wildly successful that do not have a social media presence, their biggest marketing tool has been word of mouth. And I think that if you do good work, and if you just stay aligned with your purpose and deliver each time for every client, they will not hesitate to share about your work, about your business, and bring more people to you. I think I have stopped marketing for the last year, and I've still had people come to me, and a big part of that is being recommended by existing clients. So I think that we shouldn't put too much value on social media. I think it's a good tool in today's technology age, but it's not the only tool.
Yeah.
But just
I
remember that.
I have to jump in and agree. Again, I mean, my background was in tech. You know, I spent 7 years at Facebook and Instagram, and I quickly learned as a founder that this was not the channel for me. I found myself going down some pretty dark holes trying to chase those likes and those followers and everything. And very quickly decided I needed to take a step back, that wasn't the channel for me. And I remember explaining to people, I'm not really on Instagram, you know, and people looking at me like, oh my, you know, I was an alien. But I finding what works for you as opposed, again, and like not chasing those metrics of external validation, and chasing the metrics that really, really matter to you. That's what this is all about. And for some people, maybe social media works for them. But if it doesn't, I want to just say that's okay too.
Yeah, well, and I think it's just about not putting all of your eggs in one basket, right? You know, you need to, and authenticity, I think, is the most magnetic thing about anyone. It's what creates the pull rather than the push. And it's one of the things that I love about all of the women in our communities, that everybody's really passionate about what they do. And that makes people want to have conversations with them and connect with them, because, you know, and where you feel like you've met a kindred spirit in some ways. Before we finish off, I wanted to ask each of you some kind of questions specific to your businesses, so that you give an opportunity for anyone that's listening today to learn a little bit more about what you do. So Tumi, you mentioned about kind of word of mouth and referrals. You know, why would a brand consider working with you, and what sorts of brands should get in touch?
Okay, so why a brand should consider working with someone like myself is that you have a chemist on tap, to be able to bring your dream, your vision alive. I feel sometimes when you work with the manufacturers, you don't get the personalization, or in service, you don't get your ideas completely heard, in the sense that manufacturers sometimes formulate and create your products with a level of bias, because obviously they want to stay within the ingredients that they have in stock, etc. Whereas with me, I feel like I really work with your brand's personality, your brand's mission, and we source the right ingredients, the right things that fit your brand's DNA, as opposed to just putting something together because we can. I think there's a level of personalization that people enjoy, and also the lack of commitment they have to me as a chemist. I'm not working with you full time. You can come to me as and when you need that scientific sounding board. And that's why we exist, just to support brand owners. And I work in the personal care space, and I've worked from toothpaste to mouthwash. But I think most right now, what's popular is well-being and wellness. So I have people in the body care space. I have a social enterprise who are based in Chicago, but their manufacturing takes place in Ghana. My remit is quite wide, just given that my experiences extend across the board.
So, you know, what I was thinking about when you were talking about that was just that I think for me, what you do is you translate people's passions into scientific formulas and products, and I think to be able to find somebody when you do have a dream to create something or something that you feel really passionate about, to be able to work with a professional who can bring
Absolutely.
that to life for you is really exciting. So thank you
Yeah,
for sharing that.
absolutely love it.
Thinking about what I could create.
Absolutely love it.
And Corina, I know you are at the forefront of trends and anything related to the Middle East. I mean, who should get in touch with you, and what would you say kind of are the key benefits that you could offer to anybody that wanted to do business in the Middle East or should be doing business in the Middle East?
So I think anyone who is looking for a project, anyone who has a project, and anyone in London, we work with a lot of companies that have Middle Eastern clients. And basically the benefit is for people that have a project and go out there, we can literally speed charge their knowledge. So we can give them within, I'd say, an hour or 2 hours, everything they need to know about Saudi, and they will feel really prepared. And they will also then make a really good impression when they have a business meeting. So it's not like they walk in there and then people will talk about people and they will think, oh my God, we've never heard about this person. So that's the kind of stuff that we can really help. I mean, of course, you can Google all of it, but I think it's all about, saving time and getting all the right information. And so you are prepared. And then, of course, the people or the companies that have Middle Eastern clients in London, for example, there's a lot of fierce competition with, getting these kind of high net worth clients, and how can you work on your relationship in a non-salesy way, and how can you do things better and make them also like your best ambassadors and refer your new business. So those are the kind of things that we can help with.
Amazing. And also Corina has, I mean, people can work with you one-on-one, you and your team, but equally you also have a really accessible membership platform where people can tap into. And just, can you tell them about your little reminders that you send out? Because I think that's brilliant.
Yes. So, I mean, we have a variety of stuff. So the membership is basically, we do a masterclass every month where you can learn about, let's say, all the new Giga projects that get announced. We also do like curated newsletters on that. So like we literally monitor the minute something comes out, we will put it on the newsletter. But the same as, for example, like next week, there is Eid al-Adha, which is a really important date in the Muslim calendar. So part of the membership is we've, designed templates for people so they can reach out to their clients and congratulate them on those holidays. And we also remind people of these holidays, because sometimes these holidays are not very straightforward, because, you have to wait for the moon sighting committee to actually see the moon until they decide, is it this day or is it this day? So we will then stay on top of all of this and remind people 2 days before on the day, so they won't forget in the whole busyness of the business, to send out that greeting, because that really can make a big difference. And we also do lots of other stuff as well. Like I do a series on Sunday called the Middle East Sunday Pages, where we talk about a different topic every week, and that's sort of free to read, and people have said to me, my God, this is so interesting. I really look forward reading this every week. So you learn something new, and it's kind of like Sunday is your down day, so you have time to do a bit of reading and maybe, learn about something that you would have never thought about before.
Amazing. Thank you. And Joy, can you tell us a little bit about the profile of person you work with and who should reach out if they want to know more?
Absolutely. But first, I have to thank you, Michelle, because I know both of these women and I'm learning so much about their businesses today. This is so much fun. Thank you for sharing. So the profile of women that I work with, like I said, it's a high-performing female leader, and that could be in a corporate setting or in an entrepreneurial setting. I work with both. And really, most of my clients come to me when they're at some kind of point of transition. And so that might be, I'm feeling that niggle that something is going to need to change at some point, and I don't know what it's going to look like, and that's making me feel uncertain, but something needs to change. Or it might be, I know exactly what I want, but I'm not feeling confident or clear about how I want to go after it. Or it could be, I'm now in this new situation and I need to define how I want to show up as a leader. All of those kinds of points of transition, and you're looking across both how you want to show up as a leader in business, but also in your life with your family, across all of it. Those are the women that are typically coming to me, and the ones that work out the best are ones who don't need a whole lot of hand-holding, but need a clear reflection, and are prepared to look honestly at what it is that's holding them back and what it is that they really want.
Yeah, I think that's always the difficult thing, isn't it? Is to kind of really distill down what it is that you really want, and to not feel any shame around what the answer to that might be. Because
right,
we were speaking a lot about lack of confidence and loneliness, and I think shame, and I love Brene Brown, she's the authority on this, I think certainly in my journey has been a lot of the time what I've discovered has been holding me back, in addition to fear. I think they kind of go hand in hand, or the one shame feeds fear. So Joy, yeah, I mean, I love that you've got all of these little tools that you can share, like your 3 A's, which is brilliant. For busy people, those that need to have things that they can remember and go back to pop into their resilience toolkit. And thank you to all of you for contributing so much today. I hope that you felt that you got something out of today and made a good connection. I love these because I always feel so energized afterwards. And it makes me feel incredibly grateful for all of the incredible women that I get to be on the sidelines of their journeys. So thank you for joining us today. Is there anything else that someone would like to add before we say our goodbyes? Brilliant.
No, just thank you.
You're welcome. So what we will do, if you would all like to pop links to your businesses in the comments after this video on LinkedIn, that would be great so that people can contact you. But equally, you would have been tagged in the video. So anyone that is listening, please do reach out either via LinkedIn or get in touch with us, and we can connect you with Joy, Tumi, or Corina, respectively. So thank you very much for being here, sharing so much of your time and yourselves with us. I'm incredibly grateful always. And I hope you have a good afternoon, and I get to see you soon.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.